a board chair should be able to take in the mood of the room. Board members are human beings. And as they go through a board meeting, there's a lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of emotions themselves behind those decisions. So when I walk into the room, I want to capture what is the mood in the room. Boards is about people. And if you do not understand the makeup of your members, the psychology of your members, what drives them, what puts them off, what interests them, decision making is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And very quickly, you may actually begin to digress into what we call a dysfunctional board. You begin to fail to take decisions.
Yeah.
So that begins and starts as something you must continue to do all the time. I need to make it very, very plain at the outset that in corporate governance, compliance is critical. You know, you cannot just do as you please.
Yeah.
There are rules, there are statutes, there are regulations that guide how you do things. And one of the responsibilities of any board of directors is to ensure compliance, and not to ensure cutting of corners.
Hello and welcome to the Money and People podcast, the show where we connect the dots between financial success and the power of human capital. Today on the show, we are going to be going inside Zambia's boardrooms, and we're going to be discussing board composition, cross-sector governance, and succession planning. And joining us to discuss this wonderful topic today is Mr. Patrick Daniel Chisanga. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Delia. Thanks for inviting me to your podcast.
It's our pleasure. And to just kick off the show by breaking the ice, I will ask some fun questions just for our audience who don't know you. So when you walk into a boardroom, what do you pay attention to first, having been across different boards?
Two things, Delia.
Okay.
First of all, a board chair should be able to take in the mood of the room. That's number one, and I'll explain that. Secondly, you should be able to examine what we call board dynamics. Now, the mood of the room is very important because board members are human beings. And as they go through a board meeting, there's a lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of emotions themselves behind those decisions. So when I walk into the room, I want to capture what is the mood in the room. Do the board members, my board members, do they look engaged? Or do some of them look as if they were fighting last night? Or do some of them look like they didn't get enough sleep and they're in the boardroom? So you tend to observe all this and style your approach accordingly. And in terms of the board dynamics, you want to ensure, first of all, that you have a quorum. Now, in quorum in the boardroom language means you have enough voting members to be able to take decisions. And board meetings are about taking decisions. So if you don't have a quorum, the meeting may not proceed. You also want to look at whether there are any conflicts of interest in the room on matters before you on the agenda. Again, there is the way you deal with those kind of things. You want to make sure that you look at the attendance, who is not present today. And as chair, you put on a red flag on things like some names appearing under apologies all the time. it may be telling me something that this gentleman or lady no longer needs to be on this board. So these are some of the things that you look at. And then, of course, to set the pace, I would do what you've just done earlier. I would try to break the ice in the room. I will begin by talking about general items like, yeah, it's a lovely day today, isn't it? Talk about the economy. However, amongst your groundbreaking items, avoid as chair to talk about politics in the boardroom. Avoid as chair to talk about religion.
Yeah.
And the reason is very clear. These two items tend to divide people. People get emotional. However, feel free to talk about sport. Talk about, as I said, the weather and so on, until the mood has settled and everybody is on an even keel and ready to address the meeting. So this is the way I would look at my first walking into that boardroom before we start business.
Okay. That's very interesting. I like that. And I think that's one thing that I would then carry with me, even to just other meetings, is to make sure that I analyze and see what the mood is. For us youngsters, we say, what's the vibe?
The vibe. Okay, I learned something too.
Okay. And when you look back at your early board roles, what's one lesson you wish you learned sooner?
A very critical aspect of leading a board is to understand the mindset and the psychology of your board members. You know, board members come from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of professional backgrounds, all kinds of social backgrounds. And it's very important that you understand your members of the board collectively, but also very importantly, personally. Because then you'll be able to communicate. Then you'll be able to, and there are some people who you begin to wonder why are they on the board because they say nothing. But there may be some underlying reasons why some people are quiet and soft-spoken. If you engage them on a one-on-one, not to embarrass them in front of everyone, but maybe over tea break.
Yeah.
You engage them. As board chair, you will learn a lot. So the one important element board chair needs to learn early enough is to understand the psychological composition, the mindset of your board members.
Okay. Interesting. And after so many years in governance, what still challenges you most about being a board chair?
Absolutely still understanding your board members.
Ah,
Because you see, boards is about people. And if you do not understand the makeup of your members, the psychology of your members, what drives them, what puts them off, what interests them, decision making is not going to be easy.
yeah.
And very quickly, you may actually begin to digress into what we call a dysfunctional board. You begin to fail to take decisions.
Yeah.
So that begins and starts as something you must continue to do all the time to have a good understanding of the makeup of your board members.
Okay. Okay. And so now we can dive into your role as chairman. And you have obviously got some insights from us from your role as chairman for Chadley Limited, Mchanga Investments, and Air Namibia. Now, how does the
Just to mention some of them.
Yes, yes. So, for those of you who would like to take a keen interest, you can be able to check out Mr. Chisanga's profile, and we will put the link in our description of this video so that you can just see some of the interesting roles that he's taken up. So, now coming to the role of chair. How does it differ between a family-influenced investment company and a national airline, for example?
There is a vast difference in terms of the issues
Yes.
that you'd have to deal with, and in terms of the weight of some of the decisions you'd have to take. But something that is standard in both those scenarios you described earlier are board principles, corporate governance principles, and values. Whether it's Muchanga Investments, a family-held group of companies, or whether it's Namibia, Air Namibia, a national airline of an African country, or any other entity for that matter. Even for that matter, if it's Rotary International, I have served on the board. I have just come off the board of Rotary International, where you have an organization with 200 countries as members.
Yeah.
And 19 board members. The principles, values, and guidelines of corporate governance remain the same. It's a question of weightage. It's a question of relevance. In the case of the two that you cited, if I may get back to that, in a family-held company such as the Muchanga Group, which I founded some almost 40 years ago now, back in 1986, your strategic objectives, what you're trying to achieve, not as ambitious, but equally important. For instance, in our case, I felt that even though at the time I was working in public service in the First Republic, I still felt that I had sufficient energy to be able to contribute to the economic development of my country. And so I founded the investment company, Muchanga Investments. We started off in trading. In those days, there were a lot of shortages in our country, and we used to import various items from manufacturers and suppliers in South Africa and distribute to wholesalers and retailers. A whole variety, including wines, including all kinds of merchandise. And it was good business at the time. And then later on, my wife said to me, look, my background is that of a teacher. And I would like to be able to contribute to the development of education. And particularly, she was very biased. The girl child, she said.
Oh.
And so I said, well, what do you mean by this? He says, well, I'd like to see if part of the Muchanga investments, we can go into education. We can start a school. And I said, that's interesting, actually. And also at that time, many of our schools in the country were not of a very good standard. A lot of people sent their children abroad and so on, neighboring countries. And so I said, no, that's a good idea, but on one condition. Only on one condition. This is not going to be a girls' school. It's going to be co-education.
Okay.
So she said, all right, yeah, we'll allow boys as well. And that is how, by the way, Delia, one of your members of staff, William, was one of our early members when we started Chadley House School.
Okay.
He's a product of Chadley House School.
Okay.
And you can see he's doing great things in the country.
Yes.
So that's how we started. And so your goals are different. Later on, I ventured into corporate governance consulting. And this was some 25 years ago. And at that time, corporate governance in many of our corporate entities, state-owned enterprises, and so on, was not very well developed. In fact, we would say it was neglected.
Yeah.
And having had the opportunity to travel to many other countries and to participate in institutions where corporate governance was very strong, was very sound, I saw the impact that it was having on the economies of those countries, and I felt we could benefit from this. And at around about that time, I was part of the task force that was put together, which I headed up, to start thinking about establishing the Institute of Directors in Zambia. And we started to think about corporate governance from a very, very small beginning. But I wanted to have corporate governance training and development to actually be seriously tackled in corporate entities. And that is why soon after we set up the Institute of Directors of Zambia. In fact, first we set up Dynamic Concepts, which is our consulting company. And Dynamic Concepts helped to establish the Institute of Directors of Zambia. That gave me that impetus to participate in this very, very key area, because I have seen that there's a very close correlation between the development of corporate governance and economic development in a country.
Yeah.
We can talk about that maybe in deeper detail at another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are some of the areas of background that have brought me to where we are.
Okay. Interesting. And what do you feel are some of the roles of a chairperson of a board that may be misconstrued or underestimated?
Well, let me say first what is of key focus to a board chair.
Mm-hmm.
The board chair's role is to run the board.
Yeah.
And to ensure that the board is being run in accordance with sound corporate governance principles. It is not the role of the chair to run the management. Sometimes we get this confusion where some board chairs actually believe that they are also in charge of running the management.
Yes.
And in that sort of situation, you find the board chair beginning to do what we call micromanaging an organization. And in the process, you find there's a lot of friction and stepping on toes between the board chair and the CEO.
Yes.
And that's not a very good climate to be in. So it's very important to understand the distinction in roles and functions between the board and the board chair, between the CEO and the management team.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. Board chairs should never micromanage their management teams. Board chairs, their role is strategic, to give strategic direction. Their role is to set strategic objectives and to draw up a strategic roadmap, how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. Then leave it to management to drive the vehicle with the key performance indicators provided by the board. And the board will make sure every quarter and at the end of every year that you are reviewing the performance of management. If they go off course, obviously you need to intervene and guide.
Yeah.
But the moment a board chair begins to over-involve themselves in management affairs, you actually begin to head towards troubled waters.
Yeah.
And the efficiency of the board becomes diluted.
Okay.
And the effectiveness of the organization equally becomes weak.
Okay. Just a follow-up question on that. I hear there are some organizations where management is able, and this is wrong. Management presents a whole different set of reports to the board. So the board believes the organization is going in one direction. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground shows a different picture. So in those cases, and obviously employees may be sort of refused from communicating what is really happening on the ground to the public or even to the board. So how does the board then position itself in such a way that it is still able to know what is happening on the ground without appearing to interfere with what management is doing?
Yeah. Great question. Great question, Delia. You see, a board in ordinary session meets 4 times a year, once a quarter. Now, each board meeting ideally should not take more than 3, maximum 4 hours. Now, 4 times a year, 3 hours is not sufficient to effectively and efficiently run an organization which is running on a day-to-day basis. So, how does the board manage to steer the ship? Those are related elements to the important questions that you've raised. Well, first of all, the board must ensure that in every board meeting, members of the board responsible for various elements of the affairs of the organization, they must ask all relevant questions from management. And they must demand full answers. They must not be satisfied with management waffling replies. They must demand full answers. And management must rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And perform and provide full answers that are demanded. Secondly, we have what we call board committees of the board. You have audit and risk, you have finance and admin, you have operational committees depending in the organization area in where you are. Committees is where a lot of work is done in between board meetings. And each committee is supposed to be led by a member of the board of directors and some other members. And you may actually also co-opt competent people from outside to serve on these committees of the board and elements of management as well. Now, it is in these committees that, first of all, the terms of reference have to be very clear. Terms of reference given by the board to each board committee. And the deliverables that are expected to be produced. And so the board committees will report at every board meeting through the committee chair on various aspects. And it's expected that board committees would have drilled very, very effectively in various elements so that at the board meeting, it's decision-making time. The committees will make recommendations on our basis, on our findings. We recommend that the following courses of action be taken. Because the board, Delia, is not supposed to be involved in what I can call mundane discussions on matters that are purely administrative.
Yes.
It's going to consume a lot of your time.
Yes.
A board is supposed to be involved with what we would call strategic issues, long-term impact, and leave some of the analytical work to management, and very importantly, from the viewpoint of the board board committees. And this is how the board makes sure that it stays on top of its game and it's delivering.
Okay. And what are the key governance differences between capital intensive sectors like mining and aviation versus, for example, investment holding companies? I know you mentioned the principles of governance should ideally apply to different types of companies, but are there any key governance differences there?
Yes, in terms of the strategic directions that you are focusing on. Let's, for instance, put the microscope on capital intensive entities, like you mentioned, mining.
Yeah.
And I have served as advisor to the mining industry here in Zambia, KCM, years back,
Yeah.
and in Namibia, Scorpion zinc mines.
Yeah.
And airlines like Air Namibia that I served as chair for almost 10 years. Now, these two industries that you mentioned are highly capital intensive. In other words, they need a lot of money, first of all, by the shareholders to invest to get them to start, and a lot of working capital at the same time to get them to keep running. Give you an example. The airline industry. You know, the cost of each of those airplanes is enormous.
Yeah.
And if you have a fleet, in our case, and I'm sorry that Air Namibia is no more, they went belly up after I left, by the way. We borrowed heavily as an airline to finance the acquisition of airplanes. And this meant huge borrowings. The state did its best to subsidize and provide some baseline capital, but a lot you had to borrow from the money markets. And this put pressure on on us as a board, because you are watching your inflows in terms of the sales of your seats, tickets, and so on. And you, on the other hand, you've got to raise enough money to pay your mortgages on each of those planes, you know. And we had situations, I'm very, very sorry to say, where we had aircraft being foreclosed. It's parked on a tarmac somewhere. And creditors pounce on the airplane. They say, no, you're way behind in your debt service on this. So we had some very difficult occasions like that. And many airlines go through that.
Yeah.
You know. So it's a demanding area, and same applies to the mines. One of the reasons why we were advised to privatize the mines was because a government, like any Zambian government administration, not any particular, does not have money, the sort of volumes of money required to invest in things like mines.
Yes.
It's better private sector driven.
Yes.
And this is why we were advised to privatize. And because there was a time, I remember, the amount of funding required to just run a mine on a single day, you know, the figures are mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Even just to pump water from underground, because you got to keep the water pumped out. Otherwise, the mine will flood. The mine will flood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are major capital-intensive investments, and they're best in private hands. Like we have now, government still has a stake in the mines, but a smaller percentage. And let the private sector provide the larger the capital. In terms of investments, you invest according to what resources you have to invest. And the good thing about investing is that you are really not concerned too much about day-to-day operations, because that's left to the operating companies.
Yeah.
Your focus is on ensuring that the organizations or companies that you've invested in, they're moving in the right direction strategically, and they're making some money to be able to give you some dividends at the end of the financial year. So it's an easier ride to run investment companies than to run operational companies, particularly of the bigger magnitude investment type capital requirement companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also, I believe perhaps as well there would be a challenge with these investment type organizations, in the sense that they probably have more regulation. So how do you then balance ensuring compliance as a board, but also not blocking strategic thinking in the way of making profits? So I'm guessing there should be some form of balancing act.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There has to be a balance. I need to make it very, very plain at the outset that in corporate governance, compliance is critical. You know, you cannot just do as you please.
Yeah.
There are rules, there are statutes, there are regulations that guide how you do things. And one of the responsibilities of any board of directors is to ensure compliance, and not to ensure cutting of corners. On a day-to-day basis, the management might want to look at ways of maximizing their earnings and profits. But at the same time, they must be compliant. Let me give you an example. In business, there is a thing called tax avoidance, and there is also a thing called tax evasion.
Yes.
Now, there's a serious distinction between these two, Delia. One is fully compliant to the law, the other one is not. Tax avoidance is perfectly legal because it means you are taking advantage of certain provisions in the law which allow you, if you do it right, to pay less tax.
Yes.
For instance, if you are in business and you need a large fleet of vehicles, instead of buying these vehicles, you can lease the vehicles.
Yeah.
And the total amount that you pay to the leasing companies is tax allowable.
Yeah.
And reduces your tax exposure.
Yeah.
Perfectly legal. Tax evasion, on the other hand, is doing all kinds of things to avoid paying tax,
taxes.
and that's illegal.
Yeah.
And the board should be very clear that if it's doing anything to maximize its profits, it must be avoidance, not evasion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll be breaking the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, coming to something we touched on a bit earlier, when I think you talked about the board doesn't meet every day. They'll meet about 4 times, and they operate through the various committees, right? However, when it comes to the board meeting itself, now when you're checking the organization's performance, so are there any particular questions that the board should be asking management that go beyond just looking at the reports and asking based on the reports as well as the checklists, in order to ensure that the board covers itself, that management is actually compliant? Because now we're talking about compliance, is that on paper, And in the report, it's very easy for management to even convince the various committees that what they are doing is in compliance. Meanwhile, maybe they've found ways to cut corners and strike deals because they are facing pressure of still being profitable. So, are there any ways that the boards can dig a bit deeper with the resources that they have?
One of the important committees of the board that are critical, in fact, under corporate governance now, it's a requirement. If you have only one committee on the board, it will be the risk, audit and risk.
Yeah.
For the purpose of the important issues that you raise, Delia, that a board has got to insulate itself against unscrupulous management, for instance.
Yeah.
They could go into directions which, by the time you discover, you are underground.
Yes.
So the audit and risk committee of the board is very key in drilling these questions. And for that matter, the chair, and including the chair would be a board member, but the head of the risk and the audit in the organization will report to the board chair. Yes. So that they have a free hand to investigate, to explore and follow up anything, including matters that may involve the chief executive officer. Nothing can be swept under the carpet.
Yeah.
So that committee of the board is very, very key in ensuring avoidance of the sort of things you are fearing.
Yeah.
And so let me repeat, every company must have an audit and risk committee. It's independent. Well, in terms of day-to-day, it's a department in the organization. So administratively, the head of audit and risk will report to the CEO, but functionally, they have a straight line to the board,
Okay.
through the board chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
That is a very, very powerful safeguard.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful safeguard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're probably wondering why I keep going back and hitting hard on this particular area. I think my issue has just been with the way the future of work is going to be. Is that we see a lot of people graduating from various universities and colleges, and back then there would be just a handful of people graduating each year. And now there's a lot of people graduating and very few employment opportunities. So this is going to push a lot of startup culture, a lot of people with brilliant ideas starting to form their own companies. And some of these companies will be owner-led for a long time. And so these owners will be part of management. And we find that some of the requirements to get additional funding to grow such companies will require for them to have proper governance structures. And some of them may end up viewing getting a board as a formality because they want to be able to get access to additional funding. So I'm trying to see if there's a way that governance will still be effective in such organizations, because it's quite different from a company which is perhaps sitting on a stock exchange. Even the way the management of the company will be done will be different from one which is founder-led. So I'm just trying to see how best we make sure that for such organizations, because some of them will just get a board to say, yes, we have a board. They will not really see it as an important thing that they should have governance, but they will see it as a means to an end, which is to get more funding. So that's why I keep hitting hard on this thing, because I know for founder-led organizations, it would then be easy for them to want to present a certain picture to the board as opposed to what is on the ground. So thank you so much for highlighting the fact that it would then be important to have these committees in place, in particular the ones that are able to look at the risks as well as the controls, which would be the audit committees.
And just to add, and I'm glad, I'm not sorry that you're going back on this, Delia, because this is the core of what you are trying to do to strengthen, governance in our economies. We got to get the right attitudes, the right understanding. I just want to add one very important element about board and governance. The one very important principle in board and governance is a thing called integrity. And it starts with the board chair, because the board chair has got to set the tone at the top. And when I teach corporate governance, and I do that all the time, the principle I put as number one is integrity. If you can have not only the chair, but board members, and cascade it down to management, the issue of integrity. And maybe you might ask me now, what exactly do you mean by integrity? I have asked these questions when I'm training boards. And let me share with you some of the answers that I have received. In Cape Town, this room, there was a lot of mostly white industrialists. Some of them no hair, others with white hair. And I asked the question, and somebody said in a very deep South African accent, integrity is what people say about you when you've left the room. Can you see that? See that perception?
Yeah.
And back here in Zambia, I was doing a corporate governance training for a new board of then Bank of Zambia some few years back. And I posed the question, what is your understanding of integrity? Now, this gentleman, I'm sure he might be listening to your podcast, so I will accredit this to him, but I won't disclose his name.
Okay.
He was at the time Deputy Governor Administration. He later went to become Minister of Finance. You can add one and one, but I won't tell you the name. And he said to me, now, I think integrity is what you do when you think nobody's watching you. You see, viewed this way, Delia, we can feel confident about the young people coming into the entrepreneurial space that you mentioned. Old madalas that have been around for a while, like myself. If we can all have this principle called integrity, it is the bedrock upon which corporate governance is anchored. It's not about being policed, and trying to hide from. It's about it must come from within. Now, I remember some years back when I was president of the Institute of Directors of Zambia. There was a gentleman who was head of a big state-owned enterprise. And he came to me. He said, my minister has asked me a question which I find it difficult to digest. And so I'm thinking I will resign. And I said, oh, well, you can talk to me in confidence and I'll keep the confidence.
Yeah.
And I'm still keeping his confidence. And he said, well, the minister had somebody who he recommended for engagement. And we employed this person. And this person did some very, very damaging things, we had to dismiss this person. And we had set up a commission of inquiry. We had a very, very balanced and neutral commission, and they recommended this person should go. And I've explained all these things to the minister, but the minister still says, I hear you, but give him his job back.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm sorry, I cannot succumb to that.
Yeah.
On the basis of my personal integrity and the integrity of corporate governance, I feel I must resign. And you know what I told him? I said, that's the right thing to do. And if we had more people like you who will resign on principle, our institutions will be better and stronger.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add this very important aspect and element of integrity as being key to corporate governance and the strengthening of our institutions and companies and making them grow as we move forward.
Okay. That's a very important aspect. Doing the right thing, even when you think no one is watching.
Even when you think nobody's watching you.
Yeah. Yeah. And other people also say integrity can also be translated as doing what you say, saying what you do. So some
Absolutely.
people say something totally different.
Walking the talk.
Yes, yes. So very, very important. Now, when we look at the next generation of directors, board members, do you think as Zambia we are doing a good job at intentionally preparing people to become board leaders in future? Or are we just relying on chance and networks?
I would say, and I want to look back 25 years ago. 25 years ago, we did not have the Institute of Directors in Zambia.
Yes.
And the board appointments were done in all sorts of ways. Most of them on patronage, most of them on political blue-eyed boys, and so on, so to say. When we started the Institute of Directors of Zambia, we saw it as one of the most imperative elements of what we needed to do was to do two things. One, to initiate training programs on corporate governance, starting from, we actually wanted to start corporate governance in the colleges, that you start learning from there.
Yes.
We ran into some bottlenecks, but some small start has been made. So that future chairpersons of boards, future board members, future CEOs are exposed to corporate governance from an early stage. And we believe that if we did that, it will never leave their mindset.
Yeah.
Secondly, we saw it as our duty to get government, and we have had various administrations since that time, 25 years, to get all our governments that were in place at any one time to accept the need for embracing corporate governance principles in the ministries, at cabinet level, in parliament. So much so that, because if we start from there, then the quality of decisions will be so much better. Because corporate governance principles and practices are so well tested. And if the ministers, if the permanent secretaries, if members of parliament can be exposed to sound corporate governance, and at the same time, we are teaching those who are coming into industry in corporate governance, we believed that this country will move forward by leaps and bounds in terms of economic development. Because like I said at some point earlier, Delia, I see a very strong parallel between sound corporate governance and strong economies on the one hand.
Yeah.
So I want to say that since that time, since 25 years ago, at the time when corporate governance was just non-existent in most of our corporate institutions, and now where we are, I want to be honest and say we have made some significant steps in the right direction. Corporate governance is better anchored now in Zambia.
Yeah.
There was a time when all board members, chairpersons, CEOs were appointed at a press conference by the president of the day.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they were fired the same way.
Yeah.
At a press conference.
Yeah.
I went through that myself.
Oh, wow.
And but now we have seen changes in the way these appointments are done. Much more remains to be done, but at least we have seen that, unlike in the past, permanent secretaries are no longer appointed as heads of the boards of SOEs. Even to be a member, because we argued that permanent secretaries are very busy people, and to expect them to attend board meetings all over the place was impractical.
Yeah.
And in the end, what they did was, the night before, when they discover they can't go to that board meeting, take the file, there's an officer there, hey, Lungu, come here. You go and represent me at this board meeting tomorrow at such and such.
Oh, wow.
The fellow picks up the file, and he has no institutional memory or experience in this area, and he goes to the board meeting, or she goes to the board meeting. What do? They just go and sit there.
Yeah.
They don't even open their mouth.
Yeah.
They only open their mouth to drink some tea.
Yeah.
So, but we have seen a lot of good changes. There's now, I think, more transparency in the way appointments are made. But I want to caution that much more remains to be done.
Yeah.
We still have quite a lot of patronage. We still have a lot of dissolutions of boards by ministers on grounds other than corporate governance grounds. This has to come to a stop.
Yeah.
In Namibia, and I can tell you Namibia is an economy I know well because I've done some work there, they have developed a system where when vacancies emerge on boards, they advertise the positions in the paper. Board members.
Oh.
They advertise, contenders apply with their CVs and so on. They shortlist, they interview them, and they appoint. And very importantly, they are appointed to a period of time. If it's 3 years, if it's 5 years, it's in writing. There is no question of the minister waking up one morning and dissolving a board.
Oh.
Unless somebody has done something criminally culpable.
Yes.
So there's security of tenure on the boards.
Yeah.
And because there's security of tenure, there is also sustenance in the growth profiles of the institutions. Because if you keep changing people, one time ZESCO, for instance, they were changing boards every 6 months. So much so that the organization was permanently in a state of transition.
Yeah.
Namibia set the pace. Much younger nation than we are. You cannot be removed unless, obviously, you are not compliant with the law or you break something else. But the security of tenure, you can concentrate, because experience would suggest that in the first year when you're appointed to a new position like that, the first year you are learning the ropes.
Yes.
It's familiarization.
Yeah.
The second year, you start rebuilding. The third year, you should be consolidated.
Yeah.
Now, if you are firing people every year, every other year, then the organization will never be sustainable, and it will be constantly in a state of transition.
Yeah.
You're not going to achieve achievement
Yeah.
in that manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm even wondering, would a person who is appointed in such a way have that, because they're insecure, they're not
Yes.
sure, would they work effectively?
Most cases, no. They
Yeah.
are more concerned about appeasing the appointing authorities
Yes.
so that they remain in the seat,
Yeah.
which is totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
Totally unacceptable. Yeah.
So, with what you have highlighted, is there some sort of engagement with the government to see if we can have reforms in how some of these appointments are done, or just more security factored in?
You know, when I served as president of the IOD and beyond that, and some of my colleagues who came after me, we worked very hard to engage governments at various points, and to share with them global best practices, what's happening around the world.
Yeah.
I can tell you on this public forum today that the one government, one administration where we achieved a lot of mileage in infusing corporate governance in the Zambian economy was under late President Patrick Mwanawasa.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we engaged, I remember Copeland,
Yes.
Sebastian, my young brother. He was serving at State House at that time. And whenever we said, no, we needed to meet the president, we have some positive ideas on the certain matters that we have seen or he has pronounced, President Mwanawasa will meet us.
Okay.
Permanent secretaries will meet us. Ministers will meet us. And will put our suggestions on the table. They will not accept everything, but I can tell you, a lot of the positive developments were planted during that time, and the nation is benefiting.
Yeah.
But we still need to do much more. Much has been done, but much more, Delia, needs to be done.
Okay. That's interesting, and I guess it's gonna remain a challenge for even the current members of the Institute of Directors and for future members, is that we should always strive to continue to see what is the best practice and to standardize that for ourselves.
Exactly.
And not to give up, to continue seeking
We
that
must
engagement.
continue. We must continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there particular skills or mindsets that future directors will need that the current boards may lack?
One of the important principles on the board is that the board, in terms of composition, should be multi-skilled.
Yes.
You do not want a board that's biased professionally one way or the other, or even gender-wise, or even age-wise. An effective board should be composed in such a way that it's balanced in every aspect.
Yes.
Well, of course, you take into account the area in which that particular organization is, but it must be well balanced so that each member of the board brings value to the table, brings their areas of specialization to the table. That's a principle of corporate governance. You do not want a board which is biased in one way or the other, and just too many accountants or too many doctors, too many anybody, you know. And that's a principle we need to continue to apply. That way, we are building strong boards. But very often, that is not the case, particularly in state-owned enterprises, the decisions are based on other things,
Yeah.
which perhaps is not useful to discuss on this forum.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But something a little controversial that we can discuss on this forum is there was a debate not too long ago. I think there was an organization where the board chair was appointed to be CEO. And that sparked a lot of debate about how easy should it be for someone serving on the board to come and be a CEO or vice versa. Yeah.
You know, corporate governance has developed to such a level that it actually provides answers that can lead to solutions and guidance in any situation. In terms of CEO and board chair, corporate governance is very clear. One, there has to be a separation of roles and functions. Earlier, there was a time in this country when we had a title called chairman and chief executive. We had it to the very end of the First Republic in ZCCM.
Oh.
We had the chairman and chief executive. You will remember a very distinguished Zambian, a very effective Zambian, the late Francis Kaunda, was chairman and chief executive.
Yeah.
You will remember contract haulage. And at that time I was serving in the parastatals myself. My dear friend Devin Matong was chairman and chief executive.
Yeah.
Corporate governance totally discourages the idea of a chairman and chief executive. You've got to keep the two separate because they're different roles.
Yes.
They're expected to play different functions.
Yeah.
You know, what has happened now in our country is that I think virtually everywhere now in Zambia, this matter has been resolved. There is no chairman and chief executive.
Yeah.
You have a chair and a CEO, except I need to point out the Bank of Zambia. The Bank of Zambia, the governor of the Bank of Zambia, is also the chair of the board. It's a matter under which we are constantly in dialogue with the authorities, that this is not desirable. Many countries started out that way as well, where the governor was also chair, and they moved away, you know, because checks and balances are important there.
Yes.
It's difficult to apply checks and balances if that kind of dual authority is held in the same hands.
Yes.
You know, and corporate governance is not well served when you have in that situation. That's one. Two, you mentioned somebody was serving as CEO and then they became chair or vice versa.
Chair. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Now, here is what corporate governance teaches on this matter. A CEO can be appointed to board chair, but there has to be a time lag.
Yes.
Between when they served as CEO and when they become chair of the board.
Yes.
You know, for very many good and important reasons. You know, again, the two roles are different and so on. And you need a cooling off period. If yesterday you are the same person who was arriving as CEO and tomorrow now you are in the board chair, you start scoring scores that, you know, were not settled when you were.
Yeah.
A lot of things can go wrong.
Yeah.
The other way raises even more eyebrows. For the chair to become
the
CEO. No. For me, that is a no. In terms of corporate governance interpretation. I think there are no good reasons. There's no shortage of personnel to do this. Once you have been a chair, even as a matter of personal satisfaction, why start backtracking, going backwards to become CEO? you should aspire to become chair of many other boards.
Yes.
And utilize your experience that you have gained in your previous life as CEO. But not to start going. If you've been headmaster of a school, you can't go and apply. Like I tell us, you say, now I want to be a teacher. William, do you accept that?
Yeah.
So, no, corporate governance principles are very well articulated.
Yeah.
But for various reasons, compliance and application gets in the way.
Yeah. I see. Okay. And some of these gaps probably motivated you to author books in this space. But was there any other motivation that you had to document your journey on corporate governance in Zambia?
First of all, Delia, I'm delighted that you've heard that I'm an author. Of course I am.
Yes.
And yes, a lot of my journey had a lot to do with my decision to write. I mentioned that I was chair of the founding task force to set up IODZ Zambia. And I could see the challenges we faced in trying to improve the landscape of corporate governance in Zambia. There were so many hurdles, so many historic pitfalls, and so much needed to be learned, so much needed to be documented. And so after my tenure as IOD president, a friend of mine from London, from the Commonwealth Institute, was doing corporate governance work here. And he went to the IOD and he said, oh, Patrick Chisanga used to be the president of the IOD. He said, oh, yeah, he stepped down after 3 years. But here's where you can find him. This is his office. So he came over to see me. And his name was Michael Gillibrand. And Michael said to me, Patrick, I couldn't leave without seeing you because I wanted to share with you some of my findings during my the work that I'm doing here. I'm going to report to the Commonwealth. But here's one thing that's specifically for you. He said to me, you know, when I look back at what you've done and what I've heard while I've been here, someone should write a book on corporate governance. And I think that someone should be you, Patrick. And I said to Michael, Michael, thank you so much for the confidence. And let me tell you, one day I will. Just now my hand's a little bit full, but one day I will. And if you see, have you seen that book, that my first book, The Development and Implementation of Corporate Governance in Zambia, the development and practice of corporate governance in Zambia, successes and challenges. You will find in the acknowledgement, I have repeated those words that I discussed with Michael Gillibrand.
Okay.
It was an effort on my part
Yeah.
to capture the genesis of corporate governance in Zambia. Where have we come from? At that time, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where do we stand now? I asked the question. And where do we want to go? So my book was an attempt to make a meaningful contribution to the growth and development of corporate governance in Zambia, which I knew would translate into strengthening our corporate entities and our economy. So my book takes a look at where we have come from since independence, 1964, coming through the privatization area, or nationalization, first of all, 1968, Mulungushi reforms and all that.
Yes.
And then the privatization.
Yeah.
And where I felt we needed to go.
Yeah.
I also discussed some of the practices from government as major shareholder in the state-owned enterprises, which should be discontinued, in my opinion, and a better way of doing things.
Okay.
So 5 years on, which is now, that book is 5 years old, by the way. We launched it in January 2020.
Yeah.
It's already January 2026.
Yes.
So now, because of my work across Africa as a consultant in corporate governance and also as a leader in Rotary International, as you know, I'm serving on the board of Rotary International. I had responsibilities to oversee Rotary work in all the 54 countries of Africa. So during this period, I've been able to observe, because corporate governance is never too far away from me.
Yeah.
So in whatever country I am, where I'm in Sudan, where I'm in Egypt, Ghana, anywhere, I'm always looking around to see how far is corporate governance here. And I also served on the African Corporate Governance Network, which is the umbrella organization for Africa.
Yes.
So I was able to see that different African countries are at different levels and stages of corporate governance reform. And I also observed that in those countries where corporate governance reform was advanced, somehow the economies were also stronger.
Yes.
There's evidence for that.
Yeah.
So my second book, which should be published, it's already with the publishers.
Oh, okay.
Should be coming out in the next couple of months. That book, I have called it The Evolution of Corporate Governance Across Africa.
Oh, okay.
And so I have taken a sample of 20 countries, including Zambia, and explored how corporate governance has unfolded in these different countries. What challenges have they faced? Where are they now? Where do they need to go? And then in the final section, I have reflected on where Africa needs to go.
Yeah.
In terms of corporate governance, if we are to improve our economic standing as a continent. That's the final chapter in that book.
Okay.
And you will be invited to the launch.
I can't wait. and to you, our audience, please be on the lookout, as we will be able to share when the book is out, so that you can also have access to this launch. And well done on this passion and just trying to close the gap by sharing the information. So with your authorship so far, with the books that you have written, what are the core governance lessons that you believe boards in Zambia have yet to fully embrace?
First, I'm the eternal optimist, and I'm willing to give credit where it's due.
Okay.
And I believe I did mention this earlier. We have made good progress.
Yes.
But not enough.
Yeah.
There are certain practices on the boards which still remain unsatisfactory. We still have people appointed to boards for which they are not competently qualified. We still have people who sit on boards as opposed to serving on boards. And I make a very big distinction between sitting on the board and serving on the board. Directors should be serving on boards, not sitting on boards. In other words, they should do everything possible to add value to the organization.
Yes.
They need to do a lot of corporate governance research. They need to learn as much as possible the things that are working elsewhere, the things that are not working, and avoiding them, starting in their own board. And if every board can do that, it will have a ripple effect across our lovely country. Stop sitting on boards and start serving on boards is my message.
Okay. That's a very powerful message, because it challenges you to not just come into the board and do what has historically been done. Like you have said, it should call for some research It shouldn't just be you are sitting there waiting to say, yes, I sat on this board and that board and that
what
board.
Delia said.
Yes, you should really strive to bring value by bettering yourself and seeing what your contribution really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then from the shareholder perspective, in terms of the state-owned enterprises, and we still have many in our country, I have an appeal to make to the shareholder, to GRZ, that appointments to boards should cease to be on anything other than qualification and competence. I don't want to go any deeper than that. I hope my message is clear. It should cease being based on things that are not relevant to corporate governance. Because once you do this, and examples abound, where you take people to where they are not competent, they're not qualified, they don't serve that organization. The organization starts nosediving, you know, and we start going backwards. So appointments should be on the basis of sound corporate governance, competence, and experience. Secondly, having appointed people to boards, allow them full tenure. Nobody should be appointed to a board for a period less than 3 years. Because we need sustainability, we need consistency in order for them to deliver. You can't do it in a period less than 3 years.
Yes.
You know, it should not be just a game, you know, a minister or whoever wakes up one morning and says, no, you're moving this one, they're bringing someone else. You know, we need to give our boards stability of tenure. They will be more effective. They'll deliver better. And the country's economy will be stronger. Otherwise, we are going to be in a permanent state of transition. That's my message to the appointing authorities in the state-owned enterprise. In the private sector, it's a different story. And I have served in both. I continue to serve in both. In the private sector, you have a nominating committee on the board. And the job of a nominating committee is when you have vacancies on the board, the matter is given to the nominating committee. Say, we've got this vacancy, and I think this is the skills base we are looking for. Now, you go and do your job. What do? They headhunt, they advertise, they do whatever, and a pool of candidates comes in, and they look at it, they scrutinize, much like what they are doing in Namibia, in everything there, even in yeah. So in the private sector, that's not so bad because some of the factors that sway the state-owned enterprises do not exist. So it's a better system, and the tenure in the private sector is better, you know. The only thing sometimes you find that it's the other way around. Some people stay too long on board, you know. And that also breeds in a different negativity. But I think the challenges are more in the state-owned enterprises, because that is where you have the sort of interference that I have referred to, and other negative dimensions.
Okay. What an insightful conversation. And for a young person like me, who one day aspires to be serving on a board.
Thank you.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to us future board directors?
My advice is this. Being a board member is not confined to any particular profession. Being a board member is multi-sectoral. So whether you are a journalist, whether you are an agriculturist, a farmer, whether you are a beautician, whether you are a sports person, whether you are a medical doctor, you can still aspire to serving on a board in an organization relevant to your skills. You know, but just like Delia, it doesn't matter how many times you've flown on an airplane, one day you can't just get up and walk to the cockpit that I want to fly the plane. You would have to be skilled. You'd have to be educated in the art of flying a plane. So, you young people, apart from your core professional areas, take a deeper interest in corporate governance. Read books like mine. Listen to what is going on in current affairs. Learn from other nations so that you can upgrade your capacity to serve as a board member. So you have to do two things. Improve your professional line, but at the same time, strengthen your corporate governance capability.
Yes.
You'll make a great board member. I cannot see why not, Delia. You cannot serve if you do what I have suggested.
Yeah.
You cannot serve on the board of Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, for instance.
Yeah.
Or anybody cannot serve on any board in their line of profession, but once they are armed and strengthened by corporate governance exposure, and read widely. Corporate governance is a very live subject. It evolves every day.
Yes.
If you look at some of the, when those of us who teach corporate governance, the examples we give are live. When I teach corporate governance, one of the things that I do is to give a lot of examples.
Yeah.
Look what happened in Zambia Railways a few years ago. In those days, at that time, the president of the day found it in his wisdom to appoint directly from State House the CEO of Zambia Railways. And afterwards appointed a board as well. That was a recipe for problems.
Yes.
Because the CEO who was appointed by the president, said, I'm appointed by the topmost appointing authority. Later on, a board was appointed and the chair was appointed. They were at loggerheads.
Yes.
In the boardroom, there was indiscipline because the CEO was not willing to be guided
By the
by
chair.
the chair.
Yes.
Unless, they saw eye to eye coincidentally. We have always advised, and I think that it has happened now, that CEOs should be appointed by the board of directors.
Yes.
And their line of reporting, their line of loyalty is to the board through the chair.
Yes.
Now, if you have the same authority appointing the CEO and the same authority appointing, we now have a situation where the boards, I know that sometimes you get behind the scenes where someone is already tipped and earmarked, and then they do the advert. But I would like to think those are rare cases. I think that the whole thing is now subject to open, transparent process, to an open and transparent process, how you you make these appointments. So corporate governance, you can see that wherever we have done well, things are happening. Organizations are becoming efficient, productive, and profitable. Since the creation of IDC, and a lot of state-owned enterprises were transferred to IDC.
Yes.
We have seen a lot of improvements in the manner the state-owned enterprises are performing.
Yes.
Because IDC has embraced corporate governance. And I served as chair of the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone under IDC.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
And one of the things I had to do as chair of Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone was to enter into a performance agreement with the IDC to say these are going to be the deliverables. The chair of the board was me at the time, and the other chairs enter into an agreement with the IDC. We agree these will be the key performance indicators. These will be the deliverables. And these are the corporate governance parameters that you must observe, And at the end of the period, at the end of each year, you submit a report on your performance. That's a much better system.
Yeah.
And that's why we are seeing now various companies, state-owned banks, they are handing checks to the shareholders. They are becoming profitable.
Yes.
Because we are embracing corporate governance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as I said earlier, let me not say too much. Much has been done, but much more remains to be done. And we can do it.
We can definitely do it.
We will.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have too.
I have thoroughly enjoyed. You've surprised me at your depth of matters corporate governance,
Okay.
business in general. I think you make a very effective board member one day.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much. And to you, our audience, what has stood out for you in this conversation? Don't forget to write in the comment section and subscribe to the Money and People podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye.